Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Angela and delighted to have with me today Tammy Young. And I'm going to introduce a little bit about her. She is a dedicated psychic medium and Reiki master. She serves as a spiritual advisor who helps connect the bereaved with their departed loved ones. With expertise in guiding clients through health, relationships, and career challenges, Tammy brings a holistic approach to her practice. Her unique journey began as an electrical engineer at Motorola, where she worked for a decade before a personal tragedy shifted her path. The stillbirth of Tammy's child profoundly altered her life, prompting a quest for answers that led her to explore new philosophies and spiritual practices. This transformative experience opened her to the world of spirit and deepened her relationship with God. Embracing her spiritual side, Tammy's abilities as a medium flourished, and she continues to seek and share spiritual insights today. And she has a book, and it's called Afterlife Bonds: How Spirit Communication Turned My Grief into a Journey of Joy. And so you are just perfect for this podcast. Absolutely perfect. It was like you were made to be here. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Angela. I'm just so excited to be here. I feel the same way. Looking at the topics that you usually cover compared to my book, I just thought, wow, I know that we have also been in a group before, right? So I'm just excited to see you again. So this is awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So share with us a little bit more about your journey that led you to become this psychic medium and Reiki master.
Thank you. So I worked as an engineer for a whole lot of years. And eventually we decided to I had one son, and we decided to have another baby. And unfortunately, at about 20 weeks, I lost that pregnancy. It was a stillbirth. And it was just so earth-shattering for me. I just really couldn't get my footing. I couldn't understand, how could this be happening to me, And then also having that sort of engineering background, really, I married an engineer also. So we were a very logical family. So trying to make sense of this emotional journey that all of a sudden I was on really was so hard. And eventually I reached out to God and said, hey, I need some help here because I'm not going to make it if I don't get this. I felt like it was the only place I had to go. There wasn't support around me like I think most people would have, family support, people like that. So really what I ended up doing really was going to my local bookstore and really looking through those aisles of books that had to do with spirituality, afterlife, and things along that. I just couldn't understand how we didn't know what had happened to a baby Zoe. Like, why did she pass? What's going on here? So that's how as an engineer, I went back to the books. People must know what they're talking about. Let's go look at that. And that really started me on my journey heading that direction. I ended up taking some classes and really doing things like that, just trying to understand sort of the spiritual side of things. And I felt like I had a connection there. So I really needed to investigate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what happens. It seems like when people lose somebody and it sends you into this tailspin that you really don't know what to do. You don't know what to do next. And so it's that seeking for answers that really catapults people into this awakening. It's like awakening to things that are way bigger than we are, or
Yes.
think we are.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that because I just felt like nobody around me has these answers, and maybe I don't either. but I have got to get some footing here. I've got to at least be trying to figure this out. And at this point in my life, I'm very, very thankful uh, that I started on that journey. I mean, I've learned so much. My outlook is completely different. My ability to support others is totally different. So, yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you took your Reiki, you become a Reiki master. So what prompted you to do that?
That is, it's an interesting question. You know, I So I kind of had this journey for many, probably, 15 to 20 years, looking at psychic mediums, um, doing some work there. But and I was just at this position where when I would do readings, the first time spirit would show up, I was like very overwhelmed by emotion and I couldn't figure this out. So I was talking to other mediums, and there was this one person that became a good friend of mine. I met him in a class, Michael, and he kept telling me, I just keep hearing you need to go take Reiki. You've got to take Reiki. I'm like, why? And he said, it's about the energy. Like, you've got to figure out this energy. Okay. And I learned so much. As a Reiki master, I just really learned more about how energetic our bodies are, that everything is energy and that we can funnel that. We can use that in so many ways, whether that's healing or, other areas of psychic medium work. I understand that energy that's coming at me so powerfully and how I need to learn to like ground and use that in a useful way as opposed to being overwhelmed by it. So that really just ended up being just a wonderful like tool and gift for me. Um, and I really appreciated that. We during the time that I was learning Reiki, we were in a small class, so we were doing Reiki on each other, and then would talk about the results and those kinds of things. And I found myself just doing Reiki, and everything would go to my mediumship and my psychic senses. So it truly, for me, it all works together.
Mhm.
When we were talking about really looking at the energy and people and healing and our bodies and how that works. So
Yeah. And so obviously the psychic mediumship thing came in before that then. So it didn't come through the Reiki. So it was kind of like a different way than a lot of people end up doing it. So how did you end up coming into the psychic abilities? I mean, that's interesting.
yeah, it really is. I, for a long time, I couldn't answer that question. But the more that you're in the community, people will share how they figured this out. And I realized that there was a time period when I was young and I used to be in the kitchen, working with my mother. So you'd be making dinner or the holiday meal or just whatever. And I remember probably the last time I ever did this, because I got yelled at, I was like chopping carrots or whatever and talking away. I was talking to whoever was with me, over my left shoulder. And my mother stopped me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm chopping these carrots." And she said, "No, no. Who are you talking to?" Because she was completely quiet over there washing the potatoes or whatever. And I'm like, and it was so like accusatory that my response was like, no one? Like, is that the right answer? She's like, that's right. That's right. And I just thought, wow. So I didn't know that that was different. I didn't know that was a problem. So, you're pretty much taught to kind of stuff it down. Like we don't do those things in this house. So it's always been there. But it's interesting that given that I go into being an engineer, right? Everything's super logical, right? So I understand like I'm not supposed to pay attention to all the things I'm feeling. And then when that really doesn't work for me, there's no logic in the fact that I've lost a child. I progress out of that. And it's funny because I felt like every time I would read one of the books that I had, spiritual books or books that would talk about their psychic stories and things like that, I felt so much better. And so for me, there was actually an incident maybe a couple years later at my house where we had a boy who had come to our neighborhood and the next day had gone missing. And I just thought, I can't, I have children myself. I can't just, expect the police to do whatever they're going to do to find this child. And I had never attempted to use anything like apply it to myself. I had just read about it, but I just kind of sat down, went into a bedroom, shut the door, sat in the corner, and really concentrated on this boy and asking him to show me where he was. And I didn't really know how that was going to work out, but I did see some things clairvoyantly. I wrote them down in a journal, and then the boy came home by himself the next day, and I just asked his mother if I could maybe see where he was at, and she took me there. And I was shocked how similar what I saw matched my journal. So
Mhm.
because of that, I need to go get some training. I got to figure this out, you know? So I like that because I felt like I was finally using those things that I had always sort of hidden away because I was told to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it must have been so freeing to allow that again, something that you'd been suppressing for such a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. But you know what the bigger thing of that is when you're able to help people who have lost a loved one or just maybe need some help along the way, because I also do psychic work also, and there's people that will, maybe they've lost their job and they're trying to figure out what's going on next in their lives, and it can be peaceful to just kind of have some things to think about or know that there's something coming up, or I think all of that work is really, it's for the healing for people that are ready for that and open to that for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, as I was saying to you before we come on, with grief, it's just, I marvel at, mediums and their ability to give those messages. And they provide so much comfort and hope and inspiration to people who are in grief. If people can be open to that. And so many of the mediums that I've met are so talented. That evidential mediumship is just huge when you can provide that evidence that no one else would know about your loved one, and it just gives you that confirmation that they're okay and that they're there and that you can get the messages, and it gives people hope that maybe they can make those connections too, which is empowering as well.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I when my brother passed recently, and that's kind of the theme of my book. I, as a medium, was able to say, to have that experience in the beginning when we realized he was passing or that he was going to pass. um I was having that experience like a non-medium. I just was sort of, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. Oh, just reactive. And then when it really came to the stage of, we're walking down that final path and this is what's going to be. And in my sort of desperation, I was like, wait a minute, I'm exactly the right person to walk this walk with him. And I should be able to connect with the family and work in ways that a lot of people can't. So that was really the reason for the book, was that whole, the way all of that came about and what happened through that. Um, but I have to say, it was really hard to see some family members that were unfamiliar with psychic mediums and how that can work in the grief, um, help with that. And that was really hard to see. But and that was part of the reason for the book. I just thought, let's open this conversation to a lot more people. I have to say, though, over the couple years that's taken me to write the book, um, the people I'm talking about have come around and now they're seeking the counsel of psychic mediums. But as an ex-engineer, I do believe in evidence, and I've taught them that, definitely. So in my book, I definitely talk about, if you're going to work with psychic mediums, that you need to really think about evidence and make sure that this is working for you, and not accept just everything that comes your way, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people can be really, um, really wanting those messages and hoping to get those messages and will take, whatever they can get. But when you get that evidence, oh boy, that's powerful. That is powerful stuff. So yeah, I absolutely love what you do. I cannot say it enough. I love what you do. And I mean, I know because I was that person. I was that one that went to the healer and she gave me those messages, and it just made the hugest difference for me in my healing journey. Yeah.
I agree. I, even as a medium, when I lost my brother and I said, okay, I'm the person for this, I know I am. But what happened spiritually past that, it just blew my mind. There was so much more than I expected. And that's in my book, because I just thought I knew exactly what I was capable of as a medium. But as time went on, my brother in spirit showed me so much more. And I really thought, this speaks to the mediums that are out there, but it also speaks to people that are maybe new to this, right? So in my book, per chapter, as I walk through my own experience, I have exercises and things like that in every chapter, so people can try to work on their own ability to connect themselves with their one in spirit, so that they can I just think we're all capable of this, and helping people with that practice and working that direction. I just think, like you do, it would help the grief state so much better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So, tell us a little bit more about the exercises that you have in your book specifically.
Yeah, so I start with chapter 1. We're really doing meditation. We're talking about, well, actually, chapter 1 is journaling, and then chapter 2 is meditation. And I did that because I wanted people to get used to the idea of journaling, kind of what's going on with them. I've been doing this for years, and it really is startling when you realize that you are connected, but you've disregarded. And when I found out, when I had a piece of paper to go back to, and I know that I wrote something down in earnest, and I could read that again, that was so validating to my own, whether it's my abilities or just the path that I'm on, just whatever that is related to. So I started with a journal, and I asked people to get a journal for daily meditation, but also buy another one for dreams. So we know that many, and here's the conversation, many people will just outright say, oh, my mother came to me in a dream last night, but they're not so sure that they're interested in talking about, I went to a medium, right? So if we allow people that space, like, let's talk about what's going on in meditation, but let's also talk about what's going on in dreams, because that really does begin to launch your own awareness about where you're at with things like this. And those two things can start to come together. In my book, they did, because I would tell you, I am not a person who dreams. I never remembered my dreams, but I was going to teach a class, and that was one of the things we were going to talk about. And I thought, well, I'm just going to start this, and I'm actually going to prove to people that I don't dream, but I'll have some kind of scribble in there, I'm sure. But when I opened up and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this, I couldn't believe what happened in the dreams. So I would definitely urge people to try that. And the point of that is, when you have dreams in the middle of the night, allow yourself to, I promised my guides, when I have a dream, I'm going to wake up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to go back to sleep. So it actually worked that way. And I couldn't believe it. There were times when I was awake, maybe 2 or 3 times at night, but there were also times when I had no dreams. So it seemed like every 2 weeks I was having a pretty major dream along this journey with my brother. So I definitely thought, what I'm trying to do is tell the story. And along with that, as things like dreams show up or characters, or you're hearing things, I began to hear things which I was not auditory as a medium before that. All of that went into my dream journal. But as those things occur in the story, I want to make sure that I had a place for people to go who wanted to practice that or were interested in any of those things. In some areas, we talk about, I had one instance, my background is engineering, so I'm not an artist. So there was one morning I got up and I went to meditate, and I was overwhelmed with, I've got to draw, and I could feel my hand going a certain way. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to just go with it. I'm just going to raise my hand in the air and I'm going to do that. And okay, that looks like a circle. And I just followed every, they were basic shapes, but every basic shape, I followed what I was feeling. And I asked where it would be put in the drawing that was in front of me. And it turned out to be something very, very evidential. So I think that we all have these abilities. It's like, but would you follow that? Would you get up in the morning if you weren't used to drawing or even doing meditation? And I just think if you open yourself to this idea that we can connect and we allow our loved ones in, I just think there's just a world that we just haven't even delved into and investigated and enjoyed with them. So yeah, I have 13 chapters that have exercises, and it's everything from like beginning meditation to doing journals to really, how are you recalling your dreams? How are you using your body as a tool to sense what's going on around you, kind of that Reiki approach, right? And how do you use the information that you felt or heard or seen or smelled? How are you using all of those things? And so I take you on a path in that direction to help you kind of think about, how are you feeling things and what words are you using when you describe? And so we go through all the clairs, we go through some of the Reiki chakras and things like that, and we connect those two. So it's about opening yourself and using the energy around you to really work with what you have. So yeah, that's the book is definitely for people that are interested in exploring, but it has an amazing story with it too. Things happened to me I couldn't have dreamed of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I sense that it would be a really interesting story. Yeah. And so how do you work with people? Tell me, do you do workshops and things, or how do you work one-on-one or in groups, or what do you do?
So during the writing of this book, which is taking me a few years, I'm slow. I have pretty much just done readings. And since, like 2020, most of it's been on Zoom. So it's mostly been readings. But at this point, I'm happy to say I'm returning back to doing workshops and really being out in public more so people can find me and we can really get people working in the direction for themselves. I just think that's so powerful. So yes, at the moment, things are in the work. I'm happy to say that currently we're working on an audio book, which is a totally new experience for me, right? So yeah, so giving another avenue for people that maybe are very busy, but they want to kind of listen to, maybe a different idea about things to do for grief. So
Hmm. Yeah, fascinating. And so, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
You can find me at tammyyoungmedium.com. And on Instagram, I am TY Medium. And on Facebook, I'm Tammy Young Medium.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so you can find me all over the place.
That's great. Tell me, do you have some advice or, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with this community before you go?
Yes, I would tell people to really think about the idea that you are a spiritual being and you can connect with spiritual beings in the afterlife. Be open to it. Look for those synchronicities, look for guidance in the world around you and also from spirit, because I think that we tend to be afraid or unsure about things we just haven't come into contact with or have not gotten educated on or anything like that. So I would just say be open to this, because I think there's a whole nother world that we don't see that is available to us, and with all kinds of healing comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I've loved connecting with you. And I know that a lot of people are going to want to reach out and get that book. I assume that they can get it on Amazon and is
Yes.
other places or just Amazon.
Yeah, at the moment we are on Amazon.
And then you said you're doing an audiobook.
Yes. So right now you can get an ebook, you can get a paperback, and we hope to have the audio book out probably within the month.
Awesome. That's
Yes,
great.
it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks again for taking the time to come and do this. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Angela. I just love talking with you. This has been wonderful.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for watching, and bye for now.